You are listening to The Tarot Diagnosis. I'm your host, Shannon. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, and I also happen to have a love for tarot. Each episode, I invite you to reflect with me as I work to demystify the tarot and the human experience, all while exploring tarot's connection to mental and emotional health. While this podcast may feel therapeutic, it is not meant to take the place of psychotherapy. So grab your cards and join me as I work to create a pathway to better understand ourselves and those around us. I am so excited for this episode today because I received a lot of wonderful feedback when I shared a collective reading for the year ahead a few months ago for 2026, with many of you requesting more frequent tarot check-ins like that, or even monthly readings, which honestly, so fun. Why did I not think of that? But of course, you all as listeners always have such fascinating thoughts and fun ideas. So I am listening. I love your suggestions. Keep them coming. So I've decided to kick off March with a collective reading for the month ahead, energy to consider. We'll kind of just see where it goes. And if you know my work or have been listening for a while, you know I don't read predictively. My relationship to tarot is rooted in its kind of psychological underpinnings and its ability to allow us to think outside the box, access unconscious material, and be curious about ourselves and the world around us in ways that we might not have been able to without archetypal images there to help guide us. So these readings will be invitations to be curious. And I think I'm also going to maybe use a different deck each reading. I don't know. Again, we'll see where it goes. Everyone knows me for using Tarot Vintage, and that will always be my one true tarot love. But I have so many decks that I don't get the opportunity to work with that often. And I think, doing kind of, I don't know, do I call it a series? I don't know, a monthly series, month ahead readings. I don't know. But I think doing something like that will offer a little bit of structure and kind of, I don't know, nudge me to be able to use some of these other decks. At least that's what I'm telling myself I should do. I don't know. We'll see, because today I'm actually going to be using Tarot Vintage. Yeah, so that is what it is. And also I was thinking, for now I plan to do these collective monthly readings with a different spread each time. Also not sure if that will change in the future. So yeah, you all are kind of just like along for the ride with me here. And I'm just kind of letting things flow and be free, which is actually mildly uncomfortable for me. But I'm practicing some self-exposure therapy and modeling doing something, even if I haven't completely figured it out yet. So yeah, I mean, I've always had a lot of fear and anxiety around seeming ill-prepared, or like I don't know what I'm doing, which is okay. None of us actually know what we're doing. Yeah. But I'm human. Nothing is perfect. And the whole point of me even starting the tarot diagnosis was to allow myself to continue to grow and step outside my comfort zone. So yeah, there's more of that here. But okay, I'm rambling now and you're here for tarot. So let's do that. So like I said, this month, I am going to be using Tarot Vintage still. And if you want to be able to see the images of the cards I pull along with the spread I'm pulling to, I recommend you go sign up for my email list, because those are the folks who get to see this stuff. And you'll also get notified when the episodes go out. I'll also, I think I'm going to be posting this on Substack as well. I've been active over on Substack. I've been really enjoying writing and exploring other avenues over there. So I'm thinking of transcribing these monthly readings and also posting them to Substack. So if you'd prefer to read along, or you want to read instead of listen, or maybe you started listening and then you forgot and now you want to read it, you can go over there and I'll make sure the transcript is there. So yeah, today I'm going to be using my Why is Everything Fucked tarot spread. And I chose this spread because, well, everything is currently fucked. The world we live in, the people who run it, the people who protect the people who are doing terrible things. And yeah, the majority of us are just desperately trying to get by and take care of ourselves and our community. So it felt fitting. So this spread is a 4-card spread. Card 1 is a card to represent the current chaos. Card 2 will be, what have we not considered about this chaos? Card 3 is, what role do I play in the resolution of this chaos? And card 4 is, what might await on the other side of the chaos? So I'll restate the questions as I'm pulling them, so you don't have to try and remember what I'm pulling to. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just jump in and get started and pull cards and see what comes up and nerd out with you all. So again, I'm using Tarot Vintage, and the first card we are pulling is a card to represent the current chaos. Ace of Pentacles. Okay. So the Ace of Pentacles is not traditionally associated with chaos. It usually references new opportunities for growth, some sort of like material potential. However, we are reading this card as it relates to the specific question. So we're going to step outside the box a little bit. And I like to conceptualize the suit of pentacles as systems and structures beyond just thinking of it as kind of monetary, tangible things. So if we're looking at the Ace of Pentacles as kind of a cog in the wheel of systems and structures, we could think of it as, representing the beginnings of new economic frameworks, new institutional norms, new systematic rhythms of life and relationships, new infrastructures as it relates to the environment, the programs that assist people. The list goes on. But the ace, I think, assumes a little bit more nuance and significance when we're looking at it as a representation of chaos. So we often think of aces as like the beginning, something's at its inception. It's this new seed or seed of a new idea, rather, that's not formed yet. It's not stabilized. So if we're looking at this through a lens of system and structures, in systemic terms, it could look kind of like a liminal in-between phase, or honestly, even like a threshold of sorts, kind of like the old configurations are loosening up while this new configuration hasn't been fully anchored yet. And when we're experiencing liminality and ambiguity, we're likely to also experience a lot of internal and external chaos and anxiety because there's so much unknown. As humans, we are biologically oriented towards predictability, and systems and structures, whether it's financial or political or familial or ecological, they all function to reduce uncertainty because they're naturally riddled with predictability. But when these systems start to falter or begin to shift or transform or disintegrate, we register that as a threat, even when the eventual outcome might actually be a lot better for us. So the chaos symbolized in the Ace of Pentacles, I think, is maybe referencing the destabilization that accompanies systemic reorganization. And, when cultural norms evolve, technologies emerge, or there's these economic shifts, or just things change in our environment, there's some sort of a level of adaptation that's required. And I think collectively, we are all trying to figure out, do we want to adapt? Do we want to push back? What is it that's actually growing that we feel good about? What is growing that feels dangerous that we need to try and stop from growing? And so we're all kind of on the precipice of this new system, new structure, lots of new systems, lots of new structures right now. And none of them have any sort of like blueprint or kind of guide or image of what it might grow into. I mean, I love it. If you've been around for a while, I love a good garden metaphor. So like when you're buying the packet of seeds or something at the nursery, like it's got the nice little image on it. You know what's going to bloom and what it's going to look like. And we don't know what this Ace of Pentacles might turn into. And that uncharted territory just inevitably feels chaotic. Okay, let's move on to card 2. So card 2 is, what have we not considered about this chaos? Yes, death, one of my favorite cards. Okay, this is wonderful. I love this. So if the Ace of Pentacles was helping us realize that this chaos is because there are new systems and structures kind of beginning to emerge, or we are planting seeds for them to emerge, I feel like the death card is, I guess, to be cliche when it comes to the death card, is it's representing the inevitability of endings. And, death represents this dismantling of the systems and structures that no longer serve us. Because, institutional frameworks that were once supposed to provide security and equity are now perpetuating inequity and insecurity, and economic structures that promised growth are now producing unsustainable strain among so many of us. And I think cultural narratives that once touted unification, it's becoming clear, are now rooted in exclusion for so many of us. And we are seeing this in demanding change and demanding transformation. And this card feels like collectively that it resonates so profoundly. Like the Ace of Pentacles was showing us that, new systems are emerging, but they can't stabilize while old ones remain intact. So I think the death card is reminding us that endings are often incredibly uncomfortable and incredibly painful as we wait for something nourishing to emerge next. So if this card is representing something we have not considered, I would say we have to remember that the endings, even though we might be happy for them, that they are happening, are often painful and awkward and destabilizing. I think that's all there is to say about the death card. I'm sure that I could probably keep going, but I don't know. It just feels like that's all there is to say for that. It speaks for itself. All right, let's move on to card 3. So card 3 is, what role do I play in the resolution of the chaos? 10 of Pentacles. I actually love this. Okay. So the 10 of Pentacles is typically this card of legacy and, families, intergenerational patterns. If I'm keeping on with the Pentacles representing systems and structures, we could look at this as, intergenerational structures from a communal standpoint, from a collective standpoint. And what's interesting is this 10, I think, really positions us within that network of relational, historical, and just collective bonds. But I think this card, instead of maybe answering the question of what role do I play, is actually asking us a question back. It feels like it might be asking, what part do I intend to play in this transition? What part do I need to play? What part do I want to play? It might be asking us, are we a passive observer to the systemic collapse and eventual renewal? Or are we an active participant in reshaping its trajectory and helping form its future? I think the 10 of Pentacles here really emphasizes that the systems that we live in aren't as abstract as maybe we used to think that they are, and that they are created and sustained and able to continue through our own daily behaviors, our decisions, our financial decisions, our relational decisions and practices, and what we invest in or de-invest into our communities. And this is, like I said, very much a legacy card, but I think often when we think of legacy, we think of, what we are leaving behind for our family. But I feel like it's so much more than that. It's also different narratives, values, and just modes of existing within the system. And I think to engage the energy of this card really is to confront our own position and our own actions and our own contributions to the unfolding of the current structures and the creation of the new ones. I think it was, and I probably need to go back and check, but I think it was Mary K. Greer who talks about this card as representing a role within kind of like a larger framework or a larger drama. And I think we really need to consciously consider and choose the role that we want to represent. Will we perpetuate inequitable systems through inaction, or will we contribute to building more sustainable, ethical, and inclusive structures? And what does that look like? It also kind of reminds me of how Viktor Frankl believed that meaning emerges not necessarily from circumstances, but from our responses to them. So it's basically like, okay, how are we going to, like, what's our response to the things that happen to us, basically? And I think the 10 of Pentacles frames the systemic chaos that we're experiencing as kind of a reckoning for us individually and collectively to clarify our values and to edit and modify what our legacy is going to be and how we're going to structure that and construct it, not even just structure, just like constructed in general. How are we going to build it? I feel like the Pentacles are so much about building and sustaining. And honestly, like that whole process is so unglamorous and it can be chaotic with just in and of itself. So I think we also just have to get real with what is our participation going to be in this new building, this new communal life, and step outside of our own bubble every once in a while and step out from behind our devices and figure out, what does my contribution look like? How can I create or at least contribute to hopefully creating the world that I want to live in? All right, let's move on to the final card of this spread, which is what might await on the other side of the chaos. The Page of Swords. Of course it's a page. Of course it's a page. Okay, so the Page of Swords, we all know, is this archetype of kind of intellectual curiosity. We're asking a lot of questions, maybe even having our own sort of intellectual awakening of sorts. And what I love about the pages, though, is they represent a developmental beginning. We're really kind of stepping into and learning what it would mean to embody discernment for ourselves. And the pages they're not experts. They're not masters. They're learners. They're apprentices. And I think we need to keep that in mind as it relates to this question. So what awaits for us on the other side of this chaos? If it's the Page of Swords, it's being an apprentice to new ideas and new ways of thinking and new ways of interacting with, engaging and building the demands that are placed upon us as humans. What's really exciting about pulling the page for this is I feel like just from the most simplistic lens, it represents a new way of thinking. Like if that's what comes out of all of this, that's pretty good. This kind of shift of cognitive frameworks, our language evolving, the narratives that are assigned to us are evolving. And honestly, this aligns really nicely with more kind of contemporary understandings of cultural transformation in general. Like, even just think about the way we speak about labor, identity, climate, gender, power dynamics. All of that shapes the structures we build, the way we speak about those things, the way we think about them. And the Page of Swords embodies the curiosity and the courage and willingness to question any of those inherited assumptions and stories. And they're curious about figuring out new ways to explore alternative ways of existing and thinking and communicating and sharing ideas. I think something important to consider, though, especially with this being a page, is pages are not queens or kings. So they are inherently imperfect. And so if this is what awaits us on the other side of chaos, we also have to remember that when we are in a stage of cognitive, ideological, narrative restructuring or renewal or rebuilding, it can be really awkward. We're trying to figure out a new way of explaining things. We're trying to figure out a new way of building structures and a new way of communicating how those structures are going to work and those new systems are going to work. And there's going to be a lot of stumbling because pages don't have all of the language. Pages don't have all the answers. They're just the ones who are curious and willing to go out and explore and find them. I also think it's important to remember that because this is a sword, this isn't the Page of Wands, it's the Page of Swords, that there's a sense of reality and groundedness in what will be developed. So this isn't kind of like a dreamy fantasy page experience. I think that there's a lot of reality that exists here in terms of like what it will look like, what it will feel like, and that when we are in this phase of kind of like an intellectual reorientation, it's not that we are working towards a utopian experience, and it might not even be fully supportive to us right away. And I think, so to kind of like frame this from a therapeutic standpoint, this is really reflective of, this page energy is really reflective of cognitive restructuring, cognitive reframing. So when any sort of like outdated beliefs dissolve, it leaves room for new ones to emerge. And I think collectively, the Page of Swords here is symbolizing like a whole new kind of way of, or even like community, new generation, maybe that's a better word. And I mean that both literal and metaphorically, that are committed to challenging the ways that we believe our world should be. Thank you so much for listening to the Tarot Diagnosis. For more tarot and mental health content, follow the Tarot Diagnosis on Instagram. You can also subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode, and sign up to receive the Tarot Diagnosis emails, where you'll have access to exclusive spreads and exciting announcements. To join an incredible community of tarot and psychology enthusiasts, join the Tarot Diagnosis membership community, The Symposium, by visiting thetarotdiagnosis.com.